Manifest your miraculous blessing, a prophetic prayer for divine healing in 40 days. Mary felt the weight of despair settle deep in her chest. Jacob, her beloved son, had been fighting a chronic illness that seemed to drain the very life from him. Each day brought with it the scent of antiseptic and the coldness of hospital rooms, and despite her many prayers, the doctors had begun to express their own despair. The walls of her quaint English village felt like they were closing in on her, and as a devoted member of the local church, she held fast to her faith, but it was faltering. Then came a Sunday that changed everything. The sermon spoke of miraculous healings, of faith unwavering against the backdrop of the impossible. In that moment, something within Mary ignited. A fire lit her heart. She would embark on a 40-day prayer journey, calling on the Lord for Jacob's healing and inviting the entire village to join her in faith. With each soul united in prayer, they could weave a tapestry of hope that might just touch the heavens. As she stood in the town square, her voice filled with urgency, neighbors gathered. "Join me. Let us pray as one. Let us seek God's miraculous hand." Her words echoed through the cobbled streets, drawing attention. Mary could feel the warmth of their support. She could almost see the unseen threads binding them together. Days turned into weeks, and the community gathered daily, their faith paired with fervor. Eyes closed, they reached up towards the heavens, believing that miracles were possible. Faith blossomed like flowers in spring. Whispers of revival rippled through the village. Mary felt the divine presence encircle them. Warmth washed over her, bringing inexplicable peace. But shadows followed. Doubt began to creep into her heart like dark clouds across the midday sun. A well-meaning aunt urged her to consider medical alternatives, to stop waiting on a seemingly distant miracle. "Mary," she said softly, "isn't it wise to explore other avenues?" Torn between faith and sense, Mary withdrew into herself, wrestling with this inner conflict that surged like stormy seas. Should she cling to her plea for a miracle or embrace a more pragmatic approach? Before Mary could find clarity, the 38th day of her prayer journey arrived. The service that day held an electric atmosphere. The village's priest, filled with compassion, delivered a prophetic message that cut through the congregation like a divine sword. "God will move in our midst today." His voice boomed with authority, igniting the room's energy. Every heart beat in a synchronized rhythm of hope. Eyes brimmed with tears of faith. Just as the prayer session began, a haunting thought pierced Mary's fervor. What if the miracle doesn't happen? Her heart clenched as she clutched Jacob's blanket, its familiar texture bringing both comfort and desperation. The village, poised in anticipation, began to call upon God. Mary could feel the weight of their collective hopes, the sacred silence thick with expectation. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As they prayed, a shimmering cloud seemed to hover above the altar, bathing the congregation in divine light. Gasps spread through the crowd, whispers of "It's happening," breathing life into faith once again. Mary knelt, tears flowing freely, pouring out her soul in intercessions for Jacob. The air was thick with a palpable expectancy, where hope hung suspended, waiting for a response. Will their prayers resonate with the heavens? Will Jacob rise from the depths of despair? The village held its breath, and just as a miraculous presence began to unfurl, they could scarcely grasp what was unfolding right before their eyes. A stillness enveloped the room, almost as if time itself had paused to witness the unfolding miracle. Mary could feel the warmth of the divine presence wrapping around her like a comforting blanket, soothing her troubled spirit. It was a moment that transcended earthly worries. Hope blossomed, illuminated by the shimmering light that flickered above. In that sacred space, hearts were attuned to a single frequency, the longing for healing, the yearning for restoration. The congregation was a united force, voices rising in unison like a powerful river flowing towards the divine. All doubts melted away as they surrendered fully to the faith that ignited within. "Dear God," Mary cried out, her voice quivering with fervor, "we stand here together, believing in your promise. Touch Jacob with your healing hand. Bring him back to us." Her words surged forth, a declaration of trust that echoed in the heavenly realms. The shimmering light above them pulsed gently, responding to their prayers, as if the heavens were recognizing their heartfelt cries. Mary's heart raced. Could it be? Was this the response they had longed for? Hope soared higher as she locked eyes with her neighbors. They were all holding on to the same flicker of faith, each face reflecting a mixture of anticipation and reverence. Around her, murmurs began to rise, building like the swell of a tide. "God is here," someone exclaimed, their voice breaking through the silence. Another added, "His presence is overwhelming." The collective belief within the room lifted the atmosphere. They could feel the angels' wings fluttering around them, stirring the air with promises of healing and grace. But then, like a sudden storm, doubt crashed back into Mary's heart. What if the miracle didn't come? What if they were left with nothing but unanswered prayers? Panic began to rise, a bitter chill creeping through her. She pressed Jacob's blanket tighter against her chest, seeking solace in its familiar softness. As if sensing her turmoil, the priest stepped forward, his strong voice piercing through her anxious thoughts. "My dear friends," he proclaimed, "do not waver. Faith does not always look like what we expect it to. Sometimes our greatest challenges lead to our deepest victories." His words reverberated through the hearts of everyone present, reminding them that even in the face of uncertainty, God was always at work. Mary closed her eyes again, focusing on her own heartbeat. The sound of faith swelled around her, drowning out the whispers of fear. She could almost sense the palpable energy of prayers rising to the heavens, swirling together in a vibrant dance of hope. With renewed intent, she lifted her hands and surrendered her doubts once more. "Lord, I trust you," she whispered softly, fighting back tears. "Whatever your will may be, I trust in your goodness." Just then, the light above them intensified, casting a golden glow that wrapped around every worshiper. Eyes began to open wide, faces turned upward filled with awe and wonder as the shimmering light seemed to separate into a cascade of radiant beams. Those beams landed on different members of the congregation. One by one, people began to respond, some weeping, some laughing, others simply standing in silence. Mary realized this was not just about Jacob, it was about faith, community, and divine intervention. As the collective prayer crescendoed, Mary felt something shift within her, an understanding that miracles take many forms. Maybe the healing they sought wasn't confined to the physical realm alone. Perhaps it was about healing the spirit, the soul. Suddenly a commotion rippled through the crowd. A figure broke from the back of the church, silhouetted against the radiant light. Gasps filled the air. Everyone turned. Was it Jacob? The presence of a divine mystery loomed, waiting to reveal itself. The figure moved closer, the soft glow creating an ethereal outline that sent shivers down Mary's spine. She could hardly breathe. Was it really him? Was Jacob stepping back into their lives? Or was this only a figment painted by hope, a mirage coaxed forth by prayer? With each step, the light seemed to dance around him, illuminating his features. Confusion shifted to clarity in the hushed atmosphere, like a sunrise chasing away the night. A voice, weak yet determined, finally broke the silence. "Mary." Her heart surged. This was no illusion. It was Jacob's voice, full of warmth and love. Shock rippled through the congregation like a gentle wave. Eyes glistened, hands pressed to mouths, and smiles broke free as they watched in astonishment. But still he hesitated, capturing the moment, as if striving to absorb the sheer love radiating from those around him. I felt your prayers," he spoke slowly, his tone both bewildered and reverent. "I thought I was gone, but somehow here I am." Mary rushed forward, her pulse quickening with every step. "Jacob!" she cried, rushing into his embrace. It felt as if they were two souls awakening from a long, dark slumber, savoring the warmth of shared love and faith renewed. Around them, the congregation erupted into praise, voices lifting to the heavens like the sweetest music. The air thickened with a sense of presence, tangible and electric. They had witnessed something profound, a miracle that transcended mere recovery. This was restoration. The priest stepped up, raising his hands to encourage the joyous crowd. "Look, my friends, this is what faith can do. This is the power of prayer. Let your hearts be filled with gratitude and praise." Tears flowed freely as the people rejoiced. Others stepped forward, hands reaching out to Jacob, offering their own blessings and affirmations. In that moment, Mary felt a swell of grace wash over her. She looked deep into Jacob's eyes, a mirror reflecting love and hope reborn. But deep inside her heart, she felt a gnawing question. What did this mean for them? What journey lay ahead? Still wrapped in the warmth of their reunion, she glanced back at the light, no longer mere beams but a beacon of possibility. Voices of praise swirled around her, yet her mind held on to that one question. What did God want from this moment? "Jacob," she asked softly, breaking their embrace, "what do you feel? How did this happen?" He stared back at her, breaths heavy with emotion. "I don't know," he admitted. "But, Mary, the darkness I felt was so real, and yet I could hear your voices. I could feel you all with me. It kept me fighting." In that tiny confession, Mary sensed the beginning of an even greater revelation. Their journey could not be confined to just one miracle. Perhaps this experience was an invitation into deeper love, a call to explore the well of faith that lay within each of them, to witness further transformations in their lives and the lives around them. The veneration began to quiet, the light above flickering gently, hinting at more to reveal. What were they being called into next? Was this the first act of a larger play unfolding? As they pondered, a new urgency filled the atmosphere, a joyous expectancy. The crowd buzzed with excitement, hope igniting like a wildfire. Mary's heart pounded as she looked around, the love of community enveloping her. What were they destined to witness next? What new miracles awaited just beyond the horizon? The air thickened with anticipation, a palpable buzz wrapping around the gathered souls, as if the very heavens were bending closer. Mary and Jacob stood at the heart of it, cloaked in wonder and confusion. They could feel the congregation's adoration, a warm tide of faith washing over them. Was this moment meant merely for rejoicing, or was there a deeper call resonating through their souls? As they held each other's gaze, Mary felt a warmth envelop her heart. It was familiar, like the embrace of a long-lost friend. "Jacob," she murmured, "there's more to this. I can feel it. Can you?" Jacob nodded slowly, a soft glow igniting in his eyes. "I believe it too. Something is stirring. There's a purpose behind this miracle." He turned to face the crowd, his voice steady and clear. "I know we were not meant for this joy alone." Around them, the congregation quieted, hearts pounding in unified rhythm. Every face was a canvas of emotion, wonder, joy, and an unspoken curiosity about what lay ahead. Mary could sense their collective spirit, an unbreakable bond of faith interwoven into a tapestry of hope.
"Let us pray," the priest's voice soared, compelling yet gentle, and everyone joined hands, creating a chain of belief. Mary felt a surge of energy course through her, linking their hearts as one. She bowed her head, eyes steady on Jacob, who remained standing. "God, we thank you for this miracle today. We praise you for restoring Jacob, for showing us your power. But we also seek your guidance. What do you wish to reveal through him? What path must we now walk?" As he prayed, the light hovering above took on a different hue, shifting into shades of deep gold, as if the heavens themselves were responding. Mary breathed in the divine presence, raptured by the atmosphere of love, yet anchored by her unanswered question. She closed her eyes, letting the warmth seep into her very soul. "Please, let us be open to your will," Jacob echoed, a blending of desperation and determination in his voice. "Guide us to understand this moment, to use our story for your glory." The light began to pulse rhythmically, as though responding to their plea. A whisper of the Holy Spirit danced through the gathering, stirring hearts and prompting quiet sobs of surrender and awe. People looked on, eyes widening, sensing the palpable shift in the room. Suddenly a voice broke the stillness. An elderly woman, filled with grace and wisdom from years of prayer, stepped forward. "God is calling us, dear ones. This is not just about Jacob. As we celebrate his return, we must ask ourselves what he wants us to do with this miraculous gift." Mary's heart raced as her mind flew with possibilities. What could they achieve together, bound by faith and blessed with such a sacred experience? As the priest finished the prayer and the congregation resumed praise, Mary felt a growing conviction. This wasn't just restoration, but a powerful calling. The questions that once nagged at the corners of her mind now surfaced with clarity. What was the next step?
And just then, a shimmering light flickered at the edges of her vision, drawing her gaze back to Jacob. His expression mirrored her thoughts, intent, focused, aflame with purpose. "I think," he said slowly, his voice weighted with revelation, "we might be the ones to lead others into this light, to share our story, to inspire others who feel lost in darkness." Could they truly guide others toward healing and hope? As her heart spurred with excitement and uncertainty, Mary felt the weight of destiny upon them. She took a deep breath, her spirit ignited. What greater miracle awaited them on this path, a journey laced with divine potential and profound transformation? The whispering wind carried the hint of greater wonders, and Mary's heart raced once again. The stage was set. What role would they play in God's unfolding plan? Would they find the courage to accept his call? The congregation stirred with energy as the words hung in the air. It was as if a veil had been pulled back, exposing the divine purpose waiting to unfold. Mary's heart thudded with both trepidation and excitement. The call to action echoed within her soul, urging her to step into the unknown. Jacob squeezed her hand, grounding her. "Mary," he said, his voice a soft whisper, "we need to make a choice. We can't ignore this moment. It's a gift, an invitation." She nodded, barely able to articulate her thoughts. The sensation of the Holy Spirit flickered like electricity, vibrating between them and urging the entire assembly forward. All eyes were on them, expectant, awaiting what would happen next. "Let's share our journey," Jacob said, taking a breath that filled the space with newfound determination. "We will stand together, and through our unity, others will find strength in their struggles.
As the words flowed from him, Mary felt a rush of divine energy filling her with clarity. The idea of sharing their story, their heartaches, their struggles, their joy, could light a path for others enveloped in darkness. This wasn't merely about them, it was about creating a ripple effect of healing and hope. The elderly woman stepped back into the spotlight, her soft gaze piercing through the layers of confusion. Do you feel it, beloveds? This is the beginning. The miracle is not only in Jacob's restoration, it is a call for all of us to reflect on the miracles in our own lives. Heads nodded in affirmation. Murmurs of agreement surged through the crowd, like a warm sunlight breaking through clouds, unifying every soul present. "Let us witness the creations of the Father," the priest proclaimed, his voice ringing with authority. "For it is through our stories, our testimonies of faith, that His light shines forth." A hush fell over the crowd, thick with anticipation. It was a sacred moment, charged with the energy of shared faith, collective purpose, and overwhelming gratitude for what had transpired. "Come," Jacob urged, his voice steady yet passionate. "Let's open the floor."
Let others speak. Let the stories flow. Every life touched by grace can inspire another. A woman stood up, her eyes glistening with tears that spoke of her own burdens. "I lost my way. I didn't think I could find healing again." As her words tumbled out, Mary felt the walls of her own heart expand. The stories of struggle and redemption began weaving together, forming a rich tapestry of human experience and divine intervention. Each person who shared their tale carried the weight of a miracle, miracles of hope, healing, and restoration. With each testimony, the atmosphere thickened and the light in the room intensified. The presence of God flared brightly, making the impossible seem tangible. Mary closed her eyes, overwhelmed by the revelations flooding her heart. This gathering was not simply an act of charity, it was a holy communion of brokenness and blessing. Their stories became prayers, lifting toward heaven, binding each member of the community closer together. And then came Jacob's voice, ringing through the gathering. "We must take this beyond these walls. The light we've received is too great to keep to ourselves. Let us find those wandering, lost in darkness." An uproar of affirmation shook the air, echoing a newfound commitment. They could feel it, the trembling weight of purpose pressing upon them. Mary caught Jacob's eye again, a silent agreement passing between their souls. They had stepped onto the threshold of something monumental, something that could reshape their community and beyond. But uncertainty still flickered at the edges of Mary's heart. What steps would this journey require? What challenges lay ahead under the watchful gaze of God? As the gathering began to prayerfully discuss the first steps toward sharing their mission, the shimmering presence of the Holy Spirit circulated amongst them, humming with divine potential. The vision was clear, yet the path was uncertain. With hearts aflame and spirits entwined, they stood on the edge of a new adventure. What awaited them next in this unfolding journey of faith? The energy in the room crackled with anticipation as the congregation began to share their own pieces of the journey. Each voice resonated like a note in a symphony, joining together to create a beautiful anthem of resilience. Mary felt her spirit lift with each testimony, feeling the gentle warmth of community wrap around her like a cherished blanket. A young man stepped forward, trembling yet resolute. "I was lost in addiction. I didn't think there was a way back," he confessed. "But then I found this place, and it was here that I felt the hand of God pull me back." His voice shook with emotion, and the audience hung on every word. There was something profound about vulnerability. It sparked a collective hope that surged through the crowd. Another woman spoke next, her voice soft yet powerful. "I thought I was alone in my battles with anxiety and depression. I never realized how many others felt the same. She scanned the room with grateful eyes. Finding this community has been a lifeline, reminding me that I am not defined by my struggles, but by my faith and the love surrounding me. Mary's breath caught in her throat, and she clasped Jacob's hand tighter. They were experiencing something sacred. Each story was a thread that wove a tapestry richer than anything they could imagine. The challenges they had faced were not just their own, but shared burdens intermingling in the light of divine love. As the stories continued, Mary felt an inexorable joy rise within her, lifting her spirits and intertwining them with the hopes of others. Here, in this gathering, under the watchful eyes of believers and the ever-present Spirit, they were birthing a movement. It wasn't merely talk, it was a manifestation of divine engagement. They were not just a congregation, but a family bonded by testimonies, love, and healing. Jacob turned to her, his face glowing with enthusiasm. What if we create a space weekly where we can gather to share and pray for one another? We can create an outreach to those who are still lost. His voice brimmed with excitement, igniting something deep within Mary's heart. "Yes, yes!" Mary exclaimed, her voice rising over the murmurs of the gathering. "We can hold workshops, prayer circles, anything to help bring our light to the community. We have been given so much, we can't keep it to ourselves." The room erupted in a chorus of agreement. Hands waved in eagerness, and hearts soared with anticipation. It was a delightful chaos, filled with enthusiasm. They envisioned evenings rich with prayer, laughter, and healing as they reached out to those who felt the weight of despair. Yet in the back of her mind, a soft whisper of doubt lingered. What would they need to overcome? Were they truly ready for the challenges they might face in this journey of love? She felt the hint of sorrow creeping into her hopeful heart. Suddenly, the elderly woman's voice cut through her doubts, bringing focus back to their gathering. "Remember, beloveds, he never promised the road would be easy, but he did promise to be with us through every storm." A wave of comfort surged in response to the affirmation. Mary inhaled deeply, letting the truth wash over her. They would not walk this path alone. God was with them, and so was this vibrant community. Emboldened, they began to lay down a plan. When would they gather next? How would they reach out? The energy was electric, and amid the conversations, a sense of divine purpose unspooled like a golden thread, leading them forward. As plans began to take shape, an urgent thought flared in Mary's mind. "What will we do if the very people we seek to help resist us?" she blurted out, concern clouding her voice. There was truth in her question, and it lingered like a heavy fog. This new adventure was unfolding before them, yet the way ahead remained uncharted. How would their faith, love, and compassion engage those still lost in shadows? What would happen when they met the resistance to their light? The mystery of their calling deepened, threading them into a destiny yet to be revealed. The excitement hung in the room like a shimmering veil, but beneath it, uncertainty stirred. Mary's heart raced as she watched the faces around her. Some were radiant with hope, yet others wore expressions tinged with fear. How could they reach those lost souls? Jacob leaned in closer, his voice low but steady. "We'll start small, maybe a few flyers, simple invitations, nothing too complicated. We want them to feel welcomed, not overwhelmed." His confidence anchored Mary's swirling thoughts. "Yes," she agreed, feeling the warmth of his spirit flooding her heart. "We can write down our stories too, personal invitations that show how much this community is meant to us. They need to feel the love." A murmur of agreement passed through the gathering. It lit the air with possibility. Their dreams began to crystallize into a plan. Each small step felt like a testament to the larger work God was calling them into. They had all felt His presence. Now they were eager to share it. Before they could delve deeper into their planning, a woman with silver hair who had remained quietly observant stood up again. Her eyes glimmered with wisdom earned through the years. "Let's not forget," she said, "that we have to be ready for the doors that might close. We must carry our hearts lightly for those who don't respond.
Love doesn't always look the way we expect." Her words lingered, and a hush fell over the room. Mary absorbed every syllable. It was a stark reminder that not everyone would be ready to accept the light they wished to share. A twinge of grief cut through her joy, but it was balanced by acceptance. When Jesus walked the earth, he faced the same uncertainty. "Absolutely," Jacob echoed, nodding. "We need to prepare our hearts for rejection while remembering the mission is still love." A shared understanding swept over the group, mingling hope with resolve. They would enter each person's world gently, simply offering what they had found: grace, healing, and community. As the planning continued, the conversations unfolded in waves of excitement and strategy. They decided to create a small newsletter, sharing not just their testimonies, but uplifting reflections each week. They would host conversations filled with laughter and prayer, inviting the community with open arms. Mary felt a surge of joy. With each idea shared, their vision expanded like a field of wildflowers. They were about to become a haven, a sanctuary for healing, where no one felt alone. But even as visions danced in her mind, nagging doubts returned. Would they be able to minister to those who had built walls around their hearts? What if they were met with anger, or worse, indifference? Just as the thought threatened to engulf her, the elderly woman spoke again. "Remember," her voice was gentle yet firm, "in our weakness, His strength is made perfect. Don't forget, each heart we reach is a miracle waiting to happen. Trust in the unfolding." Mary took a deep breath, letting the words sink in. There was a divine reassurance in the room, a promise echoing in her spirit. As the night drew on, they finally agreed on the first gathering, a special evening prayer event in 2 weeks. The idea of coming together again invigorated them, each person feeling the stirrings of divine purpose rooting deeper within. A sense of peace surrounded Mary, but her heart remained restless with questions. She looked around at the faces of the joyful ones, pondering how they would navigate the fears that loomed large in the shadows. Would they be prepared for the resistance, for the hearts too burdened to accept love? The night ended, but the journey was just beginning. Mary knew deep down, just as the sun rises after every night, that the breakthrough they sought was on the edge of dawn. And yet a mystery still lay ahead. What doors would they encounter, and which hearts would finally be unlocked? The days leading up to the prayer event flew by, each one filled with a blend of hope and trepidation. Mary found herself waking early, the stillness of the morning a canvas for her thoughts. She felt an ache in her heart for those who were searching, and a longing to help them find the light. The silver-haired woman's words echoed within her: "Trust in the unfolding." Each morning, as she prayed, she sensed the gentle tug of God's purpose urging her on. The community center, where they planned to host the gathering, transformed as the day approached. Colors adorned the walls, and warm lights cascaded through the windows, casting a golden hue. An atmosphere of anticipation enveloped the space. Mary arranged the chairs in a circle, imagining the faces that would fill those seats. She could picture laughter bubbling, tears flowing, and grace pouring out like rain in the desert. As they gathered in a circle, Mary stood and shared her story. She spoke of loneliness, of being lost in her own world, and how faith had carved a path for her. The honesty of her words struck a chord, and she could see it resonating in the eyes of those listening. There was magic in vulnerability, a drawing closer that made them all feel less alone. Then it was Jacob's turn. His booming voice filled the room as he shared about a time when doubt had clouded his spirit.
"But God met me in my darkness," he declared, the fervor of his faith igniting sparks within the group. "He brought me back to life." Joy erupted as the people clapped and laughed. There was something beautiful about a community coming together in shared trials and triumphs. The elderly woman, whose wisdom had guided them, stood next. Her hands trembled slightly as she spoke, but every word carried weight.
Healing isn't always physical. Sometimes it's the heart that needs mending, she continued, her vulnerability drawing them in deeper. She revealed her past struggles, crying softly, yet there was strength behind her tears. We must be gentle with ourselves and with each other. Through our struggles, God is weaving a tapestry of healing. As prayer time approached, Mary couldn't shake the unease that sometimes nestled like a shadow in her heart. The questions from before arose again. What if those who needed to heal were too afraid to come forward? What if the burdens they bore were too heavy to let go? The group formed a collective spirit as they prepared to pray. Jacob led them, his voice steady and reassuring. We are called to be vessels of God's love. Let's lift our voices together for all those who are weary, who feel unworthy of love. Mary closed her eyes, allowing her heart to expand in prayer. Suddenly, a hush fell over the room, broken only by soft, quiet sobs. Mary opened her eyes to see a woman she hadn't spotted before, tears streaming down her face. "I've been hiding," she said, seemingly speaking from a depth understood by all present. "I didn't know I needed this." The air thickened with humility and grace. In that moment, Mary understood they were indeed reaching the ones lost in their hearts. Each soul, each story was a thread in the tapestry being woven. God's presence surrounded them like a warm embrace, whispering promises of renewal and hope. But just when the beauty of connection filled the space, Mary felt a shiver of apprehension pass through her. Was this just the beginning? What would happen when they stepped back into the world outside those walls? The evening ended, but Mary held on to the divine promise that illuminated her spirit. She felt a stirring within, a realization that this was merely the first step into a much larger calling. Where would God take them next, and what miracles awaited just beyond the horizon? She could almost feel the pulse of a greater unfolding yet to come. As the evening came to a close, Mary glanced around the room, soaking in the faces illuminated by soft light. The air was thick with a mix of excitement and apprehension, yet underneath it all lay a powerful thread of connection. The woman who dared to share her hidden pain had sparked a wave of honesty. Others were now whispering to each other, hearts daring to unfold like delicate petals before the sun. Jacob moved around the room, gently placing his hands on shoulders, offering words of encouragement and blessing. "This is just the beginning," he reminded everyone. "Healing can be a journey, but together we forge paths of hope." Mary felt her spirit lift at his words, realizing that they had formed not just a gathering, but a community, a sanctuary for the weary souls searching for peace. As they began to clean up, Mary spoke quietly with the silver-haired woman, whose name had been revealed as Miriam. "How can we keep this momentum going?" Mary asked, her eyes shimmering with anticipation. Miriam's kindly gaze sparkled with wisdom. "We nurture this flame by sharing our stories, dear. Stories connect us to God and to one another." With a heart aglow with purpose, Mary was struck by an idea. What if they gathered again? What if this effort transformed into something that reached more than just those in the room? Miriam nodded, the gleam in her eye affirming Mary's vision. "Absolutely. And don't underestimate the power of prayer. It can open doors we wouldn't even think to knock on." That night, as Mary lay in bed, she thought of the realization Miriam had passed on. Prayer had shifted the atmosphere among them, allowing burdens to be shared and lifted. That magic still hung in the air like a fragrant incense. Could they invite more people? What if they opened the doors wider and spread the word? Mary fell into a deep sleep, her heart singing with dreams of healing and hope. The next morning, beads of sunlight streamed through her window, a gentle reminder of the day ahead. She made her way to the kitchen, where the aroma of fresh coffee mingled with her thoughts. Fired with determination, she pulled out her phone and created a message. Join us next week as we continue our journey of prayer and healing. Everyone is welcome. With a tap, she sent it into the digital space, her heart racing at the possibilities of who might respond. As the days passed, the responses flowed. Each message filled her with joy and a sense of responsibility. People shared their own stories, confessing their struggles and expressing a desire to find healing in fellowship. Somewhere between the responses, Mary discovered that they were not just inviting people into a meeting, they were beckoning them into a loving embrace. The night before the next gathering, Mary found herself bursting with worship. She pulled out her journal, filled with gratitude. Lord, thank you for allowing this community to blossom. May we be vessels of your love, your grace. May we be instruments of healing. She flipped through the lessons learned and penned her thoughts, noting how the gathering had become a tapestry, a beautiful, colorful reminder of life's struggles and victories. But a gentle nudge in her spirit reminded her that this was merely a stepping stone. What lay ahead was a deeper connection, a call that would test their faith and unearth hidden treasures. Morning arrived, and anticipation crackled in the air of the community center as people filed in, bringing their burdens and hopes.
Mary felt a familiar stirring in her spirit, a prompt of something greater yet to be unveiled. As conversations began to swirl around the room, her eyes caught sight of a newcomer standing half shy by the entrance. In that moment, she realized that they were on the cusp of something immense, a divine mystery unfolding before them. Would they have the courage to embrace it fully? Mary's heart raced with the weight of what was to come, knowing that real miracles often awaited just beyond the realm of comfort. What awaited in the next chapter of their journey? As the new gathering began, the mood was electric. Excitement wrapped around the community in warm waves, and each person, from long-timers to newcomers, carried a feeling of camaraderie, each heart intertwined with hope. The room pulsed with life, laughter rising and falling like a beautiful symphony of sounds, each note echoing with shared experiences. Mary took her place at the forefront, feeling the weight of purpose whirl within her. She glanced around at the familiar faces, her heart warmed by the sight of neighbors and friends united under pillars of faith and love. Jacob stood beside her, quietly affirming her strength with a soft smile that lit up his face. "Welcome, everyone," Mary began, her voice steady yet imbued with emotion. "Tonight we gather not just to share stories, but to invite each other into a deeper truth that we are all deserving of love and healing." The atmosphere shifted, thickening with anticipation. A gentle hush swept over the room as if they were just about to step onto sacred ground. The newcomer who had shyly entered the room caught Mary's eye, a young woman with vulnerability written across her face, her hands wringing anxiously together. Mary's heart went out to her. "This isn't just about us," she continued. "It's about offering a safe haven where each voice can be heard and every story can spark a transformation." Jacob nodded, stepping forward. "I believe God has something even bigger planned for all of us. It begins here with our willingness to be vulnerable, to share not only our joys but our pains." Just then the young newcomer took a hesitant step forward. The room held its breath, watching her. I felt so lost for so long," she stammered, her voice trembling but resolute. "I didn't think I could ever belong. I've been running from my past, but hearing all of you tonight makes me feel like I can finally breathe, like I can share my truth." A wave of compassion swept through the congregation, the kind of acceptance that cultivates healing. Mary's heart swelled, and she gestured with open arms. "You're home. This is a safe place. We believe in you." With a few broken breaths, the young woman let her story unfurl like petals in bloom, her struggles, her fears, the grip of shame that had held her bound.
As she shared, tears wiped away the years of isolation etched in her soul.
With each confession, the congregation moved closer together, a tapestry of shared humanity woven with profound understanding. As the evening wore on, testimonies flowed like the gentle pulse of hope. The elderly but wise Miriam spoke once more. Our struggles are the vessels that carry us to grace. Our stories can ignite others' pathways to healing. Hands shot up, tears spilled, and laughter mingled with heartfelt confessions. It was beautiful chaos, sacred and raw, full of the divine connection that wove them tightly together. Mary stood entranced, feeling something stir within her, a seed sprouting beneath layers once buried in doubt. She felt renewed energy pulsate through the room. It was God, overarching every moment, shouting through every tear. Suddenly, a soft wind swirled through the open windows, catching the notes of prayer woven among the people. Something remarkable was unfolding. It felt like the very heavens were leaning down to listen, to embrace. With renewed faith and fervor, they formed a circle, clasping hands in unity. "Let's pray," Jacob suggested, his words ringing with authority, "for each other, for those we've yet to meet, for those still out there, lost in darkness." As they prayed, a radiant light flickered overhead, brightening the gathering like divine sunlight breaking through clouds. They could feel the warmth surrounding them. God's presence was undeniable. "Lord," Mary cried, her heart overflowing, "we stand as one. May every soul in this room feel your touch, your love. Let us walk together into healing, into hope, into our purpose as messengers of your grace." The collective prayer rose, weaving through the air, binding their hearts to one another, and calling in the broken, the lost, the searching souls. As the night began to draw to a close, Mary felt the gentle tug of her heart guiding her focus back to the newcomer. "Thank you for opening your heart to us tonight. Your story reminds us all of the power of vulnerability. Together, we can reach far beyond ourselves." A glimmer of understanding sparked in others' eyes. Each life touched would ripple out into the world, the struggle, the redemption, the grace. They began to speak of future gatherings, of events to bridge the gaps. With excitement bubbling, the community envisioned prayer marches, outreach programs, and neighborhoods filled with the brightness of love. Mary's heart thundered as she felt the weight of what God was calling them into. An urgency filled the air. This was just the beginning, the dawn of something transformative. As the final words settled into the hearts of everyone present that night, Mary looked around, realizing they were now tasked with a divine mission. The road ahead would not come without challenges, but they were ready to embrace it all. "Remember," Jacob said, and his voice rang like a bell of hope, "we are destined to carry his light to those still wandering in darkness, and together we can create that change." With that, light shimmered around them, and Mary felt the promise of a new beginning ignite within her. This was just the start of their journey. Miracles awaited. Revelations were brewing. As they gathered their belongings and formed small groups for fellowship, the newcomer approached Mary with shining eyes. "I didn't expect to find this tonight." Mary smiled brightly. "What you found is a family. Let's journey together, shall we?" With joyful hearts, they pressed into the future, assured of God's promise leading the way. And so the seeds of hope were sown deep in the soil of their community. They were more than just individuals. They were a movement, a collective force, ready to touch lives, hearts, and futures.
The unfolding had begun, and they were dedicated to walk it out in faith, each step a testament to the limitless power of divine love. What would come next? Only heaven knew. Now, as we close this chapter of our journey together, I urge you with heartfelt conviction, subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive faith stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, ensuring more hearts hear these divine messages. Comment below your reactions and testimonies about this ending. We want to hear how this story touched you. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation of hope and love. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true servants of God understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Thank you for being part of this sacred journey.